Hello, this is Dr. Mears. Today we're going to be learning about standard form. Before I introduce you to standard form, I just want to remember the form that we were using, and that was slope-intercept form. And I'm going to write that form down so you can see it. Slope-intercept form, remember, was y equals mx plus b. So now what we're going to be seeing with our other form, which is standard form, we're actually going to be taking this mx and we're going to be bringing it over to the other side. We're not going to be solving for b. You're just going to see this term over on the other side hanging out with the y. So let me introduce you to standard form. Here's standard form. Standard form, you can't pick out slope and you can't pick out y-intercept. So it's just the form ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are real numbers. We still have x in the equation, we still have our y variable in the equation, and we still have an equal sign in the equation. But these do not represent slope. They do not represent y-intercept. They are coefficients in front of our variables, and this is our constant. So what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be looking at standard form and we're going to be graphing it. And when we graph standard form, it's going to be different than slope-intercept form. We're not given slope, we're not given y-intercept. So what we're going to be doing is graphing using x and y intercepts. So let's look at what an x-intercept is. An x-intercept is where a graph intercepts the x-axis. So that's where it crosses the x-axis. So it might cross the x-axis here. That would be an x-intercept. It might cross the x-axis here. So anywhere it crosses the x-axis, that is an intercept. The point here, let's say we have this one. It would be, let's put some numbers on here. 1, 2, 1, 2 for the y, -1, -2, -1, -2. So this would be 1, 0. This point right here would be 2, 0. This point right here would be -1, 0. This point right here would be -2, 0. And I want you to see what they have in common. Each point has 0 for a y coordinate number. So the x-intercept, when you get down to it, the x value, the first number, is always going to be a number. It could be 0, but the y will always be 0. You can always make sure. So let's look at the y-intercept. The y-intercept we are used to seeing because we were using that when we were graphing in slope-intercept form, and that's where it intersects the y-axis. I'm going to put some numbers on here. I'm just going to 2 again. And so if we have a y-intercept right here, we would usually call that our start point because that was our y-intercept, and our y-intercept had the coordinate 0, 1 here. If we had a y-intercept here, it would be 0, 2. If we had a y-intercept down here, it would be It would be 0, -1. And if we had a y-intercept here, it would be 0, -2. So what do you notice all about these? 0 as the x, 0 in the x, 0 at the x, 0 in the x. So we have 0 where our x value would be, so that's always going to be x. And then y will be another number. Again, it could be 0, because we could have 0, 0. But this one can change, 1, 2, -1, -2. So this is what we're going to find when we graph. We're going to find an x-intercept and we're going to find a y-intercept, and then we're going to connect them. So let's go. You have this worksheet. It's video standard form graphing using x and y intercepts, and I'm going to be doing the examples with you. The directions say sketch the graph of each line. When we sketch the graph of each line, I first like to read my equation. 2x plus 5y equals -10. So we have a coefficient. This would be our ax plus our by equals our c. So here our a is 2, our b is 5, and our c is -10. So that's what I meant when I said that those are real numbers. They're actually numbers. Okay, so let's graph this. So what I like to do is make a little squiggly line because we have to find two things. We have to find the x-intercept and we have to find the y-intercept. And I'm going to do that. So I'm going to find this first and this second. I like to write the equation down, 2x plus 5y equals -10, and I'm going to be finding the x-intercept first. I also like to write down at the end a 0 in my y spot. Because remember, when we define our x-intercept, we're always going to have a 0 as our y value in our coordinate. When that 0 happens in the y, what you would do is substitute it in here. And what happens is this automatically will cross out. So you can cross out the y when we're doing our x-intercept. Remember to do the number in front with it as well. So really all we have left is 2x equals -10. And we do have to solve for x. A little algebra is involved. Divide both sides by 2 because it's linked by multiplication. So x is going to equal -5 here. -10 divided by 2, -5. -5 down here. So my x-intercept is -5, 0. So on my x-axis, which is here, let's go to -5, 0, which is right here. There we go, point on my x-axis. Now we have to find our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is 2x plus 5y equals -10. I'm going to write down the equation like I said, and down here I'm going to put 0 now in my x spot. So notice that they're different here. If I'm looking for y, I put 0 in for x. And if I'm looking for x, I put my 0 in for my y. There we go. Okay, so what happens when we do that is that crosses this x term out completely, and we are left with just the y term, positive 5y equals -10, and we're going to be dividing 5 by both sides, and our y value is going to equal -2, and I'm going to write down a -2, and so that's our y-intercept, 0, -2, and that's right here, 0, -2. After we have those 2 points, you're going to grab your trusty old ruler, swing it over here, connect them with a nice line, throw some arrows on that, and you are done. So that's how you graph an equation in standard form in graphing using x and y intercepts. I would like you, number 2 is very similar to number 1. So I would like you to pause and maybe try that by yourself, because I did do this first one and the second one you would be able to do. So please pause and try number 2 on your own. Okay, welcome back. Let's do number 2. Instead of writing the word out, I'm just going to write x into here, and I'm going to write y into here. My x-intercept, 3x minus 4y equals 12. For x, that means 0 in for y, because they're going to be different variables. So that means I'm crossing my y term out completely. I'm left with 3x equals 12. Divide both sides by 3, x equals 4. So my x-intercept is 4, 0. I go to 4 on my x-axis because I'm looking for my x-intercept. And there we have our first point. My y-intercept, again, I write down the full equation. Underneath here, I put 0 in for x because I want the y. That means the x is completely crossed out. I write down -4y equals 12. That minus sign, please make it a negative. Divide by -4, cross out, y equals -3, -3. So here now I have 0, -3 as my y-intercept. Get my trusty ruler, connect my 2 points, throw some arrows on it, and we are good for graphing that equation in standard form. Next, number 3, you're the knock, knock, knock on my door. 4x, x int and y int. Okay, 4x minus 3y equals 15. Underneath, I have my, y as my 0 because I'm looking for my x. So I'm going to cross this out. 4x equals 15. Divide by 4. Now this is not going to come out to be perfect because 15 divided by 4 is a decimal. So let me get my calculator and divide 15 by 4. And I get 3.75. Now these are not going to be perfect. I'm just going to go to 3.75, so very close to 4. And so what I want you to do is try to find the y-intercept. Please pause the video and try the y-intercept yourself. So here we have 4x minus 3y equals 15. I need to find my y-intercept, so I'm going to put 0 in for x. That crosses out my 4x. I have negative 3, that is a minus sign. Y equals 15. Divide both sides by negative 3. Y equals negative 5. Negative 5. There's my y-intercept. So I'm going to go to my y-intercept, negative 5. Take my trusty old ruler. Connect the points. Oops, didn't do a very good job with that. Connect the points, and there we have it. Now my last one, I'm going to go through rather quickly. I have my x-int, my y-intercept. Here 0 in for my y. 3x plus y equals 3. Cross out my y, get 3x equals 3 and divide. So x equals 1, plot 1, 0. And my y-intercept, 3x plus y equals 3. 0 in for x, cross that, oops, I'm rushing now, can you tell? Cross out my x, that reminded me of my x. So what I have left is y equals 3. We don't have to do anything, that's it. This is the number 1 in front, so I'm done. So 0, 3, 0, 3. Get my ruler, make a nice line through those 2 points, and I'm finished. Welcome to standard form graphing using X and Y intercept. Sorry for the couple disturbances. Hope it helped.